Welcome to DBSync. Today we'll see the basic fundamentals of Salesforce and QuickBooks Online integration. To launch DBSync application, you'll have to register for free trial if you're a new user. If you have already registered for QuickBooks and online adapters or applications to integrate between each other, you'll have to click on Customer Login. So let's get started on how to integrate Salesforce and QuickBooks Online. You can click on Customer Login to log into your account. Once you're logged into your account, you would see my home page where you get all the videos of DBSync integrating different applications right below in the video tab. So you can see the demo integrations between each applications that we have to integrate data between them. So let's get started on how DBSync can be set up. To start DBSync, you'll have to click on Launch right here. So once you have clicked on Launch, you will be redirected to the Profiles page. Here, by default, when you have registered for Salesforce and QuickBooks Online, you would see Salesforce and QuickBooks Online profile added to your DBSync account. So before we can get into the mappings and the data flow, let's see how the integration works between Salesforce and QuickBooks. I have an opportunity that is ready to go into QuickBooks for creating an invoice. The trigger point for an opportunity to go into QuickBooks creating an invoice is Generate field. So if the Generate field on an opportunity is set as invoice, then DBSync would pick up this opportunity and sync down to QuickBooks. To sync an opportunity into QuickBooks Online, we create a button which would call the REST API of QuickBooks application and integrate the data between Salesforce opportunity and create the necessary records in QuickBooks. And to initiate the sync, you'll have to just click on Update Opportunity to QBOE. This will initiate the sync, calling the REST APIs of QuickBooks Online application, and the data from opportunity object would be sent across to QuickBooks, creating necessary records. So let's run the sync now. Once you click on the button, you would see the page or the window which would say QuickBooks Online integration. Once the sync is completed, if you refresh the Salesforce instance, you would see the opportunity turning back as invoice updated. You get the QuickBooks ID back, that is a unique ID for each record in QuickBooks, which would inform or which would update the user in Salesforce saying this invoice was updated successfully. And also you would see a receivable that is nothing but the invoice itself from QuickBooks. So let's check this invoice in QuickBooks. So here is my test account and DBSync test is my opportunity. So under DBSync test, you would see an invoice created for today's date. So here's the two products along with the billing and shipping information of the customer and all the other details coming in from Salesforce. So this is the basic integration of an opportunity that would be creating an invoice in QuickBooks. Let's see how this integration is happening in the background within DBSync and how the field-to-field mappings are performed in DBSync. So let's go back to DBSync, and under this profile you would see all the data flows that are currently done in a standard template. So to open the data flows, you'll have to click on Edit. Once you click on Edit button here, you would see the adapters page. It is recommendable for all the users to validate both the adapters when you're in this page. So once the adapters are validated, here you would see These are called as process definition languages or PDLs. So each PDL or each process would be doing certain tasks integrating data between Salesforce and QuickBooks. Since now I showed you a quick demonstration about how opportunity in Salesforce is integrated to QuickBooks to create an invoice, that process is handled in SFQB opportunity to invoice PDL. So let's check what is the data flow and how the business flows are written within DBSync. So let me open the data flow. You'll have to click on the PDL and open it up. So here you can see there are different blocks which would be doing certain tasks to integrate between Salesforce and QuickBooks. The first block which says start state. The next is initial setup. Next is opportunity to invoice. The next state which would be executing is invoice to invoice, and the end state. Initial setup state would be creating chart of account in QuickBooks Online. Whenever we have to create a new item in QuickBooks, an item should be referenced to a chart of account or a GL account. So that is taken care in the initial setup. Opportunity to invoice state is where exactly the opportunity information is queried and it is translated into QuickBooks, creating an invoice. Invoice to invoice state is nothing but getting the receivable in the receivable object under the opportunity. So let's see how opportunity to invoice state is built. To open the data flow, you'll have to right click and open data flow. So here you can see there are different sequences, what we call within DBSync data flow of a state. DBSync is purely based on ETL principles: extract from a source, load into different destinations, and the transformation is made under the map. So let's check one by one. When I click on the reader properties, you would see the standard query from Salesforce. These are the fields that are queried from Salesforce opportunity, and right down below you would see which says opportunity.id is equal to profile.salesforce.id. So this condition is satisfied when you click the button. So let's switch back to Salesforce just for a moment to see what exactly is happening when you click the button. Let me show you the buttons created by DBSync package under the opportunity. So here, when I click on update opportunity to QBOE, this is the JavaScript that is running in the background to call QuickBooks application API, and the integration would happen or invoked from Salesforce to QuickBooks. So these are the different parameters that we are passing within DBSync to initiate the process definition language or the PDL. If you have any new button, or if you would like to create any new process within DBSync to integrate between custom objects, then you can create the button to initiate the sync from Salesforce to QuickBooks Online. The button would call the REST API of QuickBooks, and the sync would be initiated only with QuickBooks Online. That is done through the button. The only place where you will have to change the process for each process that you create or each PDL that you create in QuickBooks is here. So the property called as PDL, which says process definition underscore SFQB opportunity to invoice. So the only place you'll have to change would be this PDL. So here what we are doing is, like, we are calling a process or the PDL within DBSync profile which says process definition underscore SFQB underscore opportunity 2, and this is the variable or the value that's coming in from Salesforce. So generate object is nothing but the generate field here, and this specifies if you would like to create different transactions from an opportunity. So you can have different PDLs created for each transaction: estimate, invoice, sales receipt. If you have different profiles created to create or to integrate different transactions from Salesforce opportunity, the value would be fetched and the respective process definition language would be called from your DBSync account. So let's go back to DBSync now, and this $profile.salesforce ID would be picking up the value from one opportunity. So if you're clicking this button from the opportunity, you will be running the sync only for this opportunity, and the ID from the opportunity is picked from the URL and passed into DBSync query. So the rest of the fields are the fields which needs to be queried from opportunity and integrate into QuickBooks. So this is the query from Salesforce to read an opportunity. To check the writer properties, you'll have to right click on the writer, click on properties. Since we are writing or creating all the information in just one state, that is opportunity to invoice state, would be creating a customer, would be creating a job in your QuickBooks, that is nothing but a customer again. We would be creating an item which is associated to the opportunity, and lastly the invoice itself from the opportunity. So each writer would be creating one record respectively, querying from the opportunity object. Sequence 1 would be creating a customer, sequence 2 would be creating a job, sequence 3 for creation of items, sequence 4 is for creation of invoice. Let's check how the mappings are done one by one. So in sequence 1, where we are creating the customer, you'll have to right click on the map and edit the map. So here you can see the mappings which says all the fields which are mapped in a standard template. So these are the customer information which are mapped: billing address, the country, the subdivision, the postal code, the customer name, the family name. The given name is nothing but the contact name, email address of the contact. So all this information are pulled from opportunity or the related account to an opportunity. Sequence 2 would also be doing the same work of sequence 1, but there would be an additional map of having a parent relationship. That is, since we are creating job in QuickBooks, we will have an additional mapping called as parent ref. So parent ref is nothing but the account object itself, and the name of the job, that is the name exactly, is queried from the opportunity object, that is the opportunity name. Sequence 3, which is creation of items. If there is an item already existing in QuickBooks, DBSync would just be referring them. If not, DBSync would be creating a new item to make sure the invoice gets created in QuickBooks. So here you can see there's different kind of set of mapping that we have done. We use a loop function to loop into opportunity line items. Opportunity line items are nothing but the sub object for an opportunity which holds all the product information. So we loop into the opportunity line items to fetch all the products which are associated with the opportunity and create an item if it's not existing in QuickBooks. And during the creation, as I mentioned earlier, we would require the GL account to be associated with an item. So by default, we hardcode this income account called as other income during the creation of an item. The rest of the field mappings is pretty much the standard, straightforward. Then when we jump to the actual creation of invoice, which is nothing but sequence 4 data mapping, here we can see there's two sections. In an invoice, you have header information and then the line item information. The header information is nothing but the actual opportunity, and the line item information is coming from opportunity line items. So here you can see we have all the billing information, the customer data in the top, and we are again looping into opportunity line items for QuickBooks line item. Here you can see the target fields, which is nothing but QuickBooks data, that is each field that are available to map within QuickBooks. So on an invoice table or the invoice XML of QuickBooks, you can map all these fields which are available. For line items, we'll be looping into opportunity line items and providing all the information from opportunity line items. So this is the standard set of mappings that we have from Salesforce to QuickBooks, integrating opportunity as an invoice. Since we just run the sync now, and DBSync also logs all the integration points. So whenever you run the sync, once you're in the profiles page, you have a button that says log viewer. If you check the log viewer, you would see the recently executed process, which was recently completed process, which executed successfully, as well as if it errored out. So since the recent process was successful, you would see the type of the error is info and fine. If you get any error messages, the log type or the error type here would change to severe. And you can also filter out the log level based on these strings. So you can, if there is a severe error, you can just click on severe and click on go. Since there is no error in the recent sync, we can check the complete log of a successful sync. So here you can see there is updated or the updated result back to Salesforce, which is nothing but the Salesforce opportunity ID. So let's see what is the QuickBooks response that we get when we try to run the sync and create an invoice. So to check the logs, you'll have to just start from the bottom of the execution. First, initial setup is done. You can see which state is executing and also which sequence is executing. So the next, the opportunity to invoice state is executed, and we got the response saying duplicate name exists error. So this error message can be ignored because QuickBooks provides, or QuickBooks Online throws an error message saying even if the customer is already existing in QuickBooks, it would give up this error message. But we can still reference the existing customer from Salesforce to QuickBooks, whose names match. This is during the customer creation. The next would be for the response. You'll have to check what is the request sent and the response. So QuickBooks request is sent for the customer table here, and the response received is exactly the same. The complete XML from the QuickBooks data that is already present in QuickBooks is replied back in QuickBooks response. If you get any error, you would find the error messages in QuickBooks response. Once you get any error messages here, something like this, you can find it in Google, or you can also search for the error messages within DBSync. To get the complete understanding about a product, you can always get to the help section right here, which would give you a complete tutorial of DBSync to integrate between Salesforce and QuickBooks platform. There is different other platforms that we have to integrating between different adapters. So we integrate between Salesforce, QuickBooks, database, Microsoft Dynamics GP, file adapter, email adapters, Intact, CRMs, Microsoft CRM, and Dynamics Nav. So to get the tutorials, you can get under the tutorial sections here, and we have provided all the basic information about how the mappings can be done for standard queries coming in from partners. This concludes Salesforce QuickBooks Online Integration Fundamentals. Thank you all for watching this video.